you can use both of them. Compost, cow manure, and all of those things tend to carry some type of pathogens that you don't really want to bring inside your house at times. And what I find is that sometimes you tend to bring in, you know, those black bugs that get inside the house, they get in your nose, your ears, and so on, and you have to be spraying to get rid of them. Usually they come in with this type of soil, and they come in when you use organic fertilizer, and you have a hard time getting rid of them. There are things that you can use, microbicides that you can use to get rid of them.
Those are called fungus gnats.
Okay, the fungus gnats. Oh, I just like those guys, you know. And I believe that they go after your roots, don't they? The roots of your plants?
That's why I treat all my soil, my plants with oil, natural oil for agriculture purpose, horticultural oil.
Okay.
All sprayed and put in quarantine before they come in the house.
Okay. Now, in that case, what I will do then is I'll introduce you to some of the things that I've used to get rid of them. That does help. Soil mixtures. Diatomite, some of the things that I use to make my soil mixture. Diatomite. You might find some of it in this one. This is also diatomite. This is a powder. This is another type of diatomite. This is the one that you usually find at Canadian Tire. This is more of a powdery one. I've used this one, but I'm not, for the first time in the summer, I'm not too keen on using it because after it wets, it tends to get a little soft. It still does its purpose, however.
So what's the purpose of that?
Okay, it is a soil mixture that helps with, you know, the porosity of the soil. All right?
But that is also natural.
It's very natural. It does have some silica and so on. It does have some.
But you use it as a, what is it?
It does have some nutrients.
I know, but you want to kill the bugs, right? That's what the purpose of it?
Okay, let me explain that in a little while. Sorry if it sounds as if I'm rambling a little bit, but it has many different purposes. When you mix it in the soil, you get this. It works as well as any of the other things. So the soil is a lot more porous now. All right?
So what's the ratio? Is it mix it 1-to-1?
Your choice. Your choice. Depending on the some plants will need more, some plants will need less. Like if I was doing my guava, my guavas, this is about the right mixture. The bougainvilleas, that shouldn't be too wet, I would use a little bit more.
Now, is that, does diatomite have calcium also? Because it's from a mine.
No, diatomites are ancient animals, I think, so I don't think they've got much
They're
calcium.
basically a seashell,
Yeah.
type of seashell.
Okay.
In the ocean.
Apparently that's,
Made down.
it's like the limestone is formed in ocean, but dolomite is formed in fresh water. So that's very big
Yeah,
difference.
it's actually it's a mine in Kingston, Ontario.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's actually also found all over the world. This one, this is also a diatomite. I like this one because it's harder. This one is found at Napa. It's a lot harder, by the way. Now, this one is the powdery form of diatomite. Farmers use this, they actually feed this to their animals because it helps for deworming. Not too sure about that because apparently they've been debunking it. And they also, if you want to get rid of snails in your garden, apparently you pour it on the snails, it gets rid of them. Now, it has also been used to get rid of the insects in your soil. Pour it on the soil, it actually does scratch the outer shells, they bleed to death. But there is a very strong warning in that you're advised to wear a mask try not to breathe this because it does cause silicosis. You're advised strongly not to breathe it. Alright? But you can also mix a little bit in your soil. You can also sprinkle it on your plants if you want, if you have bugs. Alright?
Another way to get rid of snails and so forth, if you don't wanna use something like that, save your eggshells.
Yeah.
Crush your eggshells, it also will eventually break down and give them some calcium.
Yeah. Okay. About the dust because it washes out. However, if you do want to, if you notice now, this is beginning to look a little bit more like that. Okay? However, you can go buy those nice expensive things if you want to, you know, what do you call it, screen your thing. This works just as well. But please, whatever you do when you're sieving your plants, wear a mask. It's extremely important. It will do you harm, any dust whatsoever. Even sawdust will do you harm. Okay, are you bored yet?
No, we're not.
Okay. Baked clay, I think, I suspect Luigi will mention this. It's the same thing, also turfest. You can mix this in your soil. What the problem I find with turfest, it works very well, mixing it in your soil, is that if you're not careful, you'll get dry pockets of turfest. Once it's dry, it's hard to get it dry. And this is where soaking your plant in a tub for a while makes a difference. But it's fantastic stuff to use. All right? Shale. Shale is just a large, you know when they're talking about fracking and so on, usually it's done in shale. Am I right? This is what I've heard anyway. This is a larger version. It can also be used at the bottom of pots. You can use it for covers, soil cover. And from that, you get this. Also very good. See that? You can take it home. Save me the trouble of taking it home. Alright? So, mix those in your soil. Okay, you're all familiar with lava rock. Now, the next thing is that you may want to consider doing, white stuff here, looks like sand. Chicken grit.
Yeah.
The problem with chicken grit,
It's white.
yeah, it's white, yeah,
That's the
but,
problem, it's white. When you put it in the soil, you see it. It's
yeah,
white.
yeah.
And
So
so
that
it's
that also look
Yeah.
good for bonsai, right?
It's crushed granite, right?
Yeah.
Crushed granite, but the problem with it is that, especially if you're going to be getting into larger pots, is that it's heavy, because it's actually granite. There's a larger version of it, chicken grit, turkey grit, hen grit, all of those guys. It's extremely heavy. Of course, it doesn't fall apart and you can reuse it and so on and so forth. I like it, but because of the weight, I don't use it too much. But it's fantastic stuff to use in terms of porosity of the soil. All right? Be careful where you buy it because you can get it at most co-op stores,
Yeah.
but it is worth it to go out into the country to buy it rather than try and buy it. In the city, it's going to be costing 2 or 3 times as much. Country, so much less. All right? If you're driving the country and you're passing a co-op store and you want to buy 1 bag, it's going to be it will last you a long time. It's worth having, and it's also nice if you spread on top of the soil too, if you want, you know. Okay, you know about the lava rock. Some things that you can mix in your soil, believe it or not, tea bags.
Yeah.
All
Orange
right?
pico.
Orange pico, either one. Used or unused. Try not to use too much for the simple reason that tea bags, it's acid. So it's usually better for,
Rhododendrons,
and so on.
azaleas.
Yeah. Not
So would you
necessarily-
use them on bougainvillea because bougainvillea is being acid loving?
You could use some. Yeah, with bougainvilleas, by the way, iron is a good one. Trace elements and so on. It's extremely important. All right? Now, different types of rocks. Don't be afraid to put a couple of rocks in your pots. Smaller ones if possible. Usually ones like this that have a little bit of some holes in it. It's usually been a tradition, I know, like in the West Indies, when you plant a fruit tree, to put a couple of rocks in the bottom, because there are a lot of minerals in rocks that plants like. That's good for them. So don't be afraid to do it. If you don't want to, you use them to decorate, but you also get a lot of minerals. Plants get a lot of minerals from them. So don't be afraid to put them outside.
But would you put that at the top or at the bottom?
Anywhere you want.
Anywhere.
Anywhere you want. The roots where it's not unusual, for instance, when you're repotting to find that the roots have been circled and actually grabbed onto the rock. And there's another thing also, if you notice, plants that are planted on rock, the root over rock plants, they grow so much faster if you use the right rock than plants that are without. So much faster. And last but not least, two more things. Don't be afraid. You might recognize these. If you can use these to grow orchids, the crushed ones, there's no reason why you can't use these to mix in your orchid soil.
Problem
Yeah,
is,
and
most
you're-
of
Is
them
it
are
safe
not
for
being
red
made
wine
of
or
cork.
white
Huh?
wine?
And the problem is, most of those corks are no longer made of cork. They're made
Yes,
of
that's
rubber.
true, yeah. But if you're lucky enough and you buy the right wine and you
Red wine.
and you drink enough or you make friends with excellent for roots. But the thing to remember is that coffee grounds, by the way, it's apparently good for, if you have dogs pooping in your garden, it's good for scaring them away. It does keep them away. But coffee is acid.
That's it, yeah.
So you have to be careful to have
That's
the,
why,
the right
what's the
balance.
proportion? Let's say you have a pot like that, 1 liter pot, how much
I
do you put?
would be very careful because by the time you find out how much,
And going with organics going into it, tea bags, coffee, ice, eggshells, and all part of your mix in your compost. And when at the end of the season, when you clean it out, you got a beautiful organic soil.
No, I
Yeah,
use a
I
lot
guess
of
that
shell.
okay, that means I should shut up and sit down. Well, I guess I would say be cautious and wear gloves when you're handling this. Well, be cautious when you're doing anything anyway. No, the other thing is too, if you want to have this green up, keep it in the bag, keep it wet, put it in the sun, and this goes green quite quickly, and then you can spread this on top of your soil. It gets a nice, delicious green.
But you leave that inside the bag or out?
Any green, any bag you want to put it in, you can spread it thin, cover it. It's a beautiful, even more nicer green than
Moss.
regular moss. But it is a moss anyway,
Yeah.
sphagnum moss. So anyway, any questions about it is that while there is still a lot of peat moss around, peat moss is acidic. While there is still a lot of peat moss around, the cocoa fiber, it comes from the coconut tree, and it's easily replenishable. So as long as coconuts are growing, you have a ready supply of cocoa fiber. So it's a beautiful thing to actually use.
Is that relatively available over here?
Cocoa fiber